Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this fantastic Bally Medusa pinball machine for a little while now. And we've done, I think, 3 videos on it. And on the last video, we actually got the thing to boot up with a brand new all-tech MPU that we placed in it. And so it is actually in attract mode right now. But we can't get the thing to start. So it's on free play. There's some kind of problem with the switches. And then a whole bunch of the lamps don't work. A bunch. I mean, not a few, a bunch don't work. The lamp board is split up into like 4 sections, and it almost looks like 3 of the 4 sections are not working, because usually you wouldn't have this many bulbs out. Just you can see how, 60% of those are out. We're looking for 75%. Up there, 80% of those are out. Maybe 75% of those are out. So I'm thinking, that's my guess just right off the bat. The lamp driver board, I think 75% of the bulbs ain't working. So the lamp driver board is divided into 4 parts. I'll bet 3 of those parts are not working. That's my guess. But it could just be that the lines that feed those 4 parts, 3 of the lines aren't working. Could be that. So we're going to look into that on this video, and then we're also going to fix the switches. So let me show you what we've been doing in the back box. On our first video, we rebuilt the power supply that's down underneath the playfield and got the general illumination lights to come on. We cleaned it up a little bit and all that. In the second video, the playfield was filthy. Had cat hair and stuff all over it and dirt all over it. So we meticulously cleaned the playfield, took everything off of it, cleaned all that up in our second video. If you want to see any of these, go back and watch them. They're on our channel just before this one. Okay, in our third video, we worked on the solenoid driver board, got it doing its thing, rebuilt it, and then we repaired the connector over there that gets corroded all the time, and put in a brand new All-Tech Systems MPU board. And the thing is booting, it's up and running. We haven't done anything to the displays yet. We haven't done anything to the auxiliary lamp board yet. We haven't done anything to the regular lamp board yet. And we haven't done anything to the squawk and talk sound system here. All right. That's going to be a whole video that we do on its own, because we're going to fix that board and then we're going to replace it with a brand new modern one from Guido. Guito. I got to ask him how he pronounces his name. Guito.com, I believe, is the website. I hope I didn't mess that up. Now I'm going to have to go look to make sure. We replaced it with one of his boards, or we're going to replace it with one of his boards. And we'll see how that goes. It's like a modern replacement with modern sounds and all of that. It's going to be great. So yeah. So, and we still got other things. There's a broken drop target and all that. But today we're going to work on the switches and the lamps. That's how you fix these, people. You got to divide it into specific areas. So, just like you do the playfield all at one time, we're going to go through and do the lamps and the switches. We're not going to worry about the soundboard. It don't work right now. We're not going to worry about the displays. They're kind of doing their thing. Lamps and switches. So the first thing I want to do is I want to press the start button while I'm wiggling this bottom connector. Because my theory is that connector was also damaged by the alkaline leakage that the MPU was damaged by. I wonder if I can rig you up on this pop bumper where you can see me do that. Nope, I can't. I wonder if I can rig you up on this pop bumper where you can see me do that. Why did we wax the playfield before I tried this? Okay, so with my right arm, I'm going to wiggle this and I'm going to hit the start button. That's it. Wham! It did kick the ball out. So what's going on? It knows it can't push up those drop targets. So there's something going on there. We can turn it back on. There's something going on there. and it kicked the ball out. You didn't hear anything because the soundboard's not working. So that's the problem with the switches. Just doing it again as it boots. That's the problem with the switches, is that connector. So we need to repin that connector the same as we repinned that connector. We did that on the previous video if you want to go back and watch it. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that, and that should get our switches all working as they should. Now, this also does switches, but this connector and that connector, which does the displays, is up out of the corrosion area on the board. So on the original board, there's a battery mounted about here, and it starts leaking alkaline and just rots the board. So it comes up about 3 or 4 inches, right? So the top connector usually doesn't need replaced, but the bottom one often does, which is how I knew to wiggle the bottom one. There you go, folks. So I'll replace that, and then the lamps, of course, are all done by this lamp driver board. Now, it could be that something on that too. So, but you can see the 4 chips that I'm talking about. Okay, but let's do the switches first and get that out of the way. Okay, folks. So Joe came in and started messing with it. Joey's trying to get it done. So he repinned the connector, and now the thing will start. We also tentatively looked at the Squawk and Talk, and the ROMs were like falling apart. So that was the problem with it. But we believe we've got the switches working. Joey, we're going to check them. Here we go. There it is. Cool. So it has now started a game. But let's try to go into test. There's our lights. That clicking you're hearing is a relay to turn them all on and off. Or to turn them back and forth. There's the display test. We haven't even messed with those yet. Coils. Okay, so most of those seem to be doing their thing. This is probably a sound test. And there's what we wanted, the switch test. Which were kind of messed up because it dropped all these drop targets back down. And I can't pull up the one that's broke. Easily, at least. So we're still going to mess with those, obviously. Okay, so it's telling us switch 20. So we'd have to look in the manual to see which one that is. But let's see if it'll give us any of the other ones. Okay, so that's telling me it's 12. And then it goes back to 20, 13, 14. Left out lane's not doing anything. Left kicker, but that might be how it's designed. Left gate. It might be that it shows you the lowest one that's on or something. Hmm. 18. Yeah, it could be that I'm trying to hit ones that are above 20 so it doesn't show up. So we got a whole bunch of them that it's not signifying 18. All right, so let me see which one 20 is. We'll do it the systematic way. All right, so here's the manual, and it shows you which switch is which. And 20 is the number 1 shooter lane rollover button. Now, interestingly enough, the stuff that I was trying, they are all over number 20. So it could just be that it tells you the lowest one that's stuck. So like if 20 is stuck, which it is, if I hold down 36, it'll never tell you that because 20 is still stuck and it's a lower number. So let's see if we can fix that one, and then we'll go through it. All right, so that's number 20, and it was stuck down. So I freed it up, and that says 22, which is 2 up, and is that one, which it's stuck down. Sometimes after you wax them and stuff, you get stuff like that. You got to go back and clean out all those little crevices to make sure that they move good. So now it's working good. So now it's on to number 46. So let's see which one that is. But to test my theory, let's see if we now have some of these working. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the deal. It just shows you the lowest one that's stuck. Okay, so number 46 was that one that's broke. So basically when those come up, they hold themselves in place with the top of the drop target. So you have to lift it up. And so for now, while we're waiting on the drop target, I just moved it out of the way so that it's no longer touching it. And that tells us that none of the switches are stuck on. So let's try testing some more of these. Okay, that one works. That one works. That one works. That one works. Now these two outside ones and these two rollovers are actually the same number because it doesn't need to be two different numbers. They do the same thing. That one works. These three we already got. Pop bumper, pop bumper, pop bumper, pop bumper. This gate over here isn't quite right. It's not connected or something. The one behind it is though. Spinner. Spinner's not triggering either. So this gate and this spinner aren't right. That's that one, it's fine. Rollovers seem fine, if not stuck. Okay, that's about it. We've got the drop targets, obviously. Yeah, so all the switches seem to be working except for these two here. Okay, so when these gates move, when the ball rolls through, it moves this little bar, which moves this little metal rod. And whenever it does that, if we can see it, this thing is, you can't prop the playfield up very easily. So there is the little metal rod moving. So basically that switch was just dirty. Okay, and then the spinner works the same way. Oop. So there you go. So I think we got that. You got to make sure they're adjusted to where it opens and closes. So let's see. It's that one and the spinner. Now when you're testing the spinner in the switch test, sometimes whenever you spin it, it won't actually show up because it's going too fast. For whatever reason, in gameplay, it can see a fast switch touch, but in test, it doesn't always. So like if I try to hit this, it didn't catch it. But if I hold it down, it catches it. I don't know. But it's not like that in gameplay. It's kind of weird. Okay, so I think we've got most of the switches are working. We might still have drop target problems, but we'll check that out whenever we get a little farther along. But the next thing I want to do, though, is the lamp test. Now, I'm going to do it a little different than we usually do it, just because there's so many of them that are out. Normally, if there were 7 or 8 out, I would go through and change all the light bulbs first. But I think what I'm going to do is make a list of the few that are working, and then look in the manual and see if there's any rhyme to it. Like I was saying earlier, I think 3 of the chips might be bad. So if like those 3, none of those lights are working, then maybe that'll be a clue for us. So I'm going to make a list of the few that are working, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm looking in the schematics, and this is the signals that come in. You've got 4 address lines that are like, I think they call that like BCD, kind of. And then you've got these 4 PD lamp data lines, right? So basically, the lamp data lines turn on each chip, depending on which data line is going to it. But the address lines run to all of the chips. Okay, and then there is also a strobe line, and of course that's how it makes it work. So each chip is this little 16 decoder, but they only use 15 of them. Right? And each output goes to a little SCR, silicone controlled rectifier, and turns that on, and then each SCR drives one of the lights. Now, some of them drive 2 lights, but in general they don't usually use both of the connections. They'll only drive one thing, but sometimes they can set it up where it drives 2. So there are 4 of these decoders, and so I was guessing that 3 of them were dead. But it's not quite that bad. So here's my list of all of the ones that were working. And so I take the thing and I highlighted the ones that are working. So what did I find out? Those, and those. But this top one, none of them are working. So all of these ones that come from the top decoder chip don't work. But that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lights. Maybe 12 to shoot again that's in the back box. Oh wait, there's a few more. Yeah, maybe it is using all 15. So a bunch of them are because of that one. But these 3 you can see actually are working. And then I also highlighted the actual transistors, and there's no really rhyme to which ones aren't working. So on this one, if you're just looking at how they're on the paper, the 3rd, the 4th, the 7th, and the 8th are not working. But down here you see the 4th one is, and the 8th one is. And down here, the 3rd one is, the 7th and the 8th one are. So if you go through and look at each one of them, there's only like one that is common where it isn't working on all 3. And there's no way just one of those BCD lines could be out making that happen. That's not going to happen. So these 3 chips are probably fine, unless they just happen to have a dead leg on them or something. But the inputs must be working, and these 3 must. We might be just losing the data line that turns on this chip. That could be, or it could be the whole chip's gone. So now that I've done this, I am going to go through and start replacing light bulbs and see if we get any more back, and if we get any, because there's probably some bulbs that are just burnt out. So if I get any back, I'll add them to my list and add them to the schematic so we kind of know what we're doing. You don't have to do all this. I'm just doing it because it's kind of interesting, trying to figure out why it's doing what it's doing. Also, you can just buy a new lamp driver board if you want. Now, the auxiliary lamp driver board apparently runs a bunch of stuff on the back of the playfield that I don't even realize is there. Apparently, there's a lamp bar on the back or something that I haven't even figured out yet, but we'll get to that soon. So I'm going to go ahead and start changing the light bulbs and see if I can get some more of them to work, and then we'll pull the board out and start working on it. Okay, folks, so I've turned it off, and I've started replacing a bunch of the light bulbs. And I had to take the back drop target assembly off so I could reach a few of them. Right? But I wanted to show you just how these memory coils work while I have it apart, because it's kind of neat. So let's say that player 1 has all of the drop targets down except for those 2. And then player 3 starts. Well, player 3 had only that drop target up on its last ball. So how does it work? Well, the machine resets all of them, if I can get it to do it without getting electroshocked. So at the beginning of the ball, the machine resets all of them, and then it goes, hey, wait a minute, I remember that's the only one that's supposed to be up. So it has a little coil on each one that literally just hits the target, gives it a low blow, and knocks them down, leaving only the one that's supposed to be up. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm replacing all of the bulbs. We usually do that anyway, so that I can get a good idea of which ones are working and which ones aren't. Okay, folks, so I went through and I replaced every light bulb, and I marked off the ones that fixed, but there's still a whole bunch of them that don't work. Okay. And the light bar in the back started working. I think there was just a loose wire. But we've got to keep our eye on that. The one all the way on the right isn't working, but that's because I can't get the bulb socket in there. It thinks it's a bad design. You can't get your, like, how am I supposed to reach that? You can tilt it up, but then once you do that, it's in a weird spot where you can't see anything. You can't use two hands. It's always harder when you're using one hand, people. Okay, so I've updated my list. And interestingly enough, there are two of them from the top thing that do work. The shoot again and the ball in play. So this is the ball in play, but notice it's all screwed up. It's not working right. It shouldn't even be on. There's no ball in play. And then the shoot again is that one, which is doing the same thing basically. It shouldn't be doing anything either. So if you look, those two are acting very strange. And then there are a few on these other three that aren't working right. But I think that's going to be bad transistors or bad solder. Like if you look, let me see if I can find it here. This one's pin 1 and it's not working. Well, that's on the end of one of the connectors. It's probably bad solder. This one's pin 25. It says to auxiliary expander. It's probably working. That's probably what makes all these lights work. Number 14 there, top of panel on the right. I think it's probably that one that I haven't been able to put a bulb in yet. And then one of them's pin number 2. Well, I'll show you here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the lamp driver board, and we'll see what's going on with it. So here is the lamp driver board. This is the standard lamp driver board that's in everything. Now there is a auxiliary lamp driver board in the back as well, but I think it probably does all of that light bar. We'll look at it too, though. But, you know, it's just the usual things. Now, we've kind of already figured out that this top chip ain't doing what it's supposed to be doing. I believe it's the top chip. It runs Q5, Q6, Q7, Q1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if that looks like it connects to those. Q5, Q7, Q6, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those. Yeah, do run from that chip. So this chip seems to be bad. Now, as I mentioned before, the battery would sometimes leak down on these and mess them up. And so that looks really bad. But let me show you something. They all kind of look like that. And if you flip it over, the other side does not look like that. So what does that mean? That's not really corrosion. Most of that is just dust and dirt just from sitting. Or it would be on the other side too, right? So I think it's going to be fine. But we're going to take that chip out and replace it. Now, how do you know if it's the signal to the chip? Well, it depends on how much time you want to take messing with it. If you want, you could try resoldering all the connections and then put it back in the machine and see if that fixes anything. I personally think that the chip's messed up. And one of the reasons I think it's messed up is because of those two lines. That shoot again and the ball in play that are doing weird stuff. That's because there's something going on with that damn chip. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's what I think's going on. I think that chip's screwed up. I've got about 20 of these parts boards, so I can easily swap that chip. No big deal to me. Now that chip is a... Okay, see this weird number? It says E62037. That's Motorola's weird number for the part. I guess Bally told them to do that, but that doesn't translate to anything. I think it's a 74-154 or something like that, but we'll figure it out. So we already know that chip needs to be replaced, and anything that it drives, that will likely fix it. Okay, and then a few of them, like I said, were on the end pins. So if you look on the back, very common thing is for these connectors to have bad connections. Now the power and all the signals come in on this top left connector, and then this one typically does the back box, and then these two do the playfield. And if you see on here, it's telling you that. One of them's doing, they say 2 back box, but if you'll notice, some of them are actually on the playfield. And then this one says 2 playfield, and this one says 2 playfield. This is just one side of the schematics. The other side shows the inputs. Okay, so if we look at these connectors, we can usually find some problems. It's always on the end ones. Look at that one. It's sticking all the way through the... You see what's going on there? There's a post that's stuck through too far because it's completely broken loose and is sitting up higher than all the other ones. So that pin is definitely got big problems and probably isn't electrically conducting and making the light blink. And then if you look at the next one, pin 2, it looks really bad as well. If you look at the next one, pin 3, see the circle around the bottom of the little lump there? So that's broken loose. And then pin 4 doesn't look that great. Pin 5 doesn't even look that great. It looks like there's a circle around all of those where they're probably not touching. Okay, now if we move up, the ones in the middle usually are not a problem. I usually resolder them anyway just because you're right there. But when you get over to the other end, you're going to have the same problem. So the one all the way at the end, again, is not even in the hole that used to be there. And then the second one looks all screwed up, and pin 3 looks all screwed up. So we got 3 of them there that are probably causing it not to work. And then if you move up to the next connector, the first pin's completely screwed up. The second one looks to me like it's completely screwed up. The third one might be all right. Moving along. What in the world? Okay, so starting from the top, the first one's definitely messed up. The second one's definitely messed up. See the square around the pin? The third, fourth, and fifth ones look like volcanoes that have erupted or something. I don't know, that may just be an illusion. Well, that might not be right. Okay. So over here on the other side, let's look at the power connection. This is where the juice comes in. Yeah, I said it, the juice. Once again, the top connector, pin 1, all screwed up. Look at that. Pin 2, all screwed up. Pin 3 doesn't look great. And then when you get to this end of the connector, pin 1, all screwed up. Pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, maybe even pin 5. That's a really bad one there. And then down to this connector that they say is for the back box. Now you can see how the solder is lumped up higher? Someone has went in and put more solder on it at some point. So all of this has been resoldered. Okay, so there's likely not any, I mean there could be, but most of those are probably sound. I mean it's not a bad idea to redo them. So that's the connector that traditionally goes to the back box. So let's see if we've got a bunch of those that are screwed up. So from here down is ones that we think should work. So we've got pin 15, the Colossus Special isn't working. All that he's in U means not used. And that's the only one that's not working on that connector. That's not driven by this top chip. So pin 15 is in the middle of the connector, so that's likely either just a bad connection on the pin or a bad transistor. So, since they resoldered that one, the stuff they resoldered probably isn't a problem. So that's usually your issue. All right, so I think what I'll do is I'll go through them one at a time. We'll find one that's really bad, and then we'll see if it corresponds to a light that wasn't working. Okay, so I resoldered this side. The first one that was questionable was J4 pin 17, and that's one of the address lines for all of the chips. So without that, you would have a bunch of chips off on the second, third, and fourth chips too. So I don't think that was a problem, although it didn't look great. And then down at pin 1, it was a redundant line. Pin 1, 2, and a couple other ones are a ground, I believe. So, and then this one, it seemed like they were all connected good. So now we're over to our really bad ones. Really bad ones. Okay, so let's do J1, which is the top one. This is pin 1, this is pin 28. So J1, pin 1, and 2 look really bad. So 1 and 2. 28 is non-existent. Alright. So let's see on our connector. Here's J1. Pin 1, which was really bad, was actually working. Okay. And then pin 28, that's so bad, is one of the ones that the top one controls, so we didn't notice that. But it's the 9K Medusa bonus. So okay, so I'll resolder this. The way I do it is I take a wire brush, try to clean all of the damn dust and stuff off of it, and then go in and just add a little bit of solder to each one. Now you can remove all the old solder if you want, but you kind of need to add solder to do that too. So if you want to remove all of it, you add a little bit of solder, then remove all of the solder on each pin. What I do is I just add a little bit of solder. It remixes it, kind of gets your physical connection back where it's physically broken loose, and it's fine for me. But you got to be able to put just a little bit, because you don't want to get a whole big glob of solder that'll touch the pin next to it or whatever. Okay, so now looking at J3, pin 1, pin 28. There's J1. Pin 1 and pin 28. We'll see. So 28, definitely not touching. A lot of suspect ones around it. J3, pin 1, definitely screwed up. So 1 is definitely bad, and 28 didn't look great. So J3, pin 1 is the 40K right gate lane. It wasn't working. 28 is not used. Okay. But look, pin 2 also isn't working. And then 12 is not used anyway. 25 we think is alright. So pins 1 and 2 seem to be the problem. This one that's the top of the panel right we think works. So pins 1 and 2 bit dust on this one. So same thing, clean with the wire brush, put a little solder on. Okay, so we're going to check all of the SCRs. So this board has all of these silicon controlled rectifiers on it that control the lights. So these chips get signals, and they turn these on and off, which turns the light on and off through the pins. Okay, so these die all the time. But it's been 40 years, so hard to get mad about it. What is that in the background? This is called a junk bot. Our buddy Vinny brought this to us, Vinny T. He makes these out of recycled parts, capacitors and LEDs and stuff, so he brought me one. It's sitting here on my desk. So if you're interested in anything like this, check out his Mercari site where he does controller mods and stuff like this. Okay, and here's Vinny's Mercari site. Search him on there, Vincent Trupia. Right? And so he's got all kinds of, he calls them junk bots that he's made from recycled capacitors and stuff. Very cool. He actually stopped by the shop and handed that thing to me with his son. It's very cool. Thank you, Vinny. So the way I check it, put it on diode test, and then you just go through and you compare all of them to each other. You don't necessarily have to know what you're looking for. So 0.690, that means that there's a voltage drop between these two probes, right? That is shorted together. It's down near 0.0. That is a voltage drop. And that is open, right? So anything higher than about 0.7 or so is basically open. So it's between the left leg and this center. I'm getting 0.690 on the first one. Now if I move on to the next one, that's shorted bigger and crap. I mean, that's straight up shorted. And then the other connection is 0.291, right? So let's see which one that is. It says it's Q58. My guess is going to be that it's a... so what I did was I just bent that down so that I can remember where it is. All the other ones are pretty much upright, but that one's bent down now. So after I test a bunch of them, I can go back and get the 2 or 3 that I noticed were bad. So Q58, if we look at our handy dandy little cheat sheet, also called a schematic, we had as not working. Q58 we said was not working. If I can track it here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the 40K Medusa bonus. That's the one that goes to pin 2 that we thought it could be because it's close to the end. It's not. It's because the transistor's shorted. So it being shorted is causing us problems. Okay, so moving on to the third one. It's testing similar to the first one. So is the fourth one. Okay, and then moving right through. So you're basically looking to see if they're all similar. The ones that are similar are good because you've got so many that are working. The ones that have a difference must have a problem, and we just proved it by finding a random one and then looking on the schematic, and sure enough, that was one of our lights that's not working. Now there may be a better way to test these if you knew what you're actually testing. So for instance, someone who knew the design a little better and knew what these, I didn't even tell you what these SCRs are, right? So you don't even know what we're testing. But if you looked up the data sheet and you saw what they are and what they're doing and what they operate on and all of that, there may be a better way to test it. There may be, you know, like you may only have to test what I just, that I'm testing there, where we found that one bad one. That may be all that you need to test. I may be wasting my time testing this other one. But this is the kind of stuff we got to do. People always want me to film everything, but you can see how long this video is getting already. It just, a lot of it is me tinkering around, double checking stuff, testing, 50 different SCRs. So I can't film every little thing. But you can see that all of these are coming back pretty much that they're good. I have had some though that they seem to test good, but in the game they don't seem to work good. What is that? Yet another one. This one's shorted worse than the other one. Okay, so let's try this again. That is Q6. I'll bend it down. And then since we're here, let's just test the very last one. It's fine. Q6 definitely screwed up. Q6 is the 150K Colossus bonus, which was not working. But it's also ran by the top chip, so we already knew that wasn't working. But see, if I would have just swapped the chip, when I put it in, that one would still not be working because voila. Alright, so now we still got all these ones in the middle to do. These are a little beefier, but just bigger transistors. Now, again, we haven't even checked to see what they are. I'm just guessing here. I'm just figuring it out as we go along. So see, we're getting the same voltage drop here. And then between the other two pins, we get nothing. So we're just kind of comparing them. So if you're troubleshooting something, this is all you really need to do. Now, if you know the design and you know what the chip is and you understand it, that's great too. That's better. But my videos, I'm trying to show people that you don't have to be a genius to work on this stuff. You just have to use logic. And it's logical that if you've got 30 of the exact same chips set up in the exact same way, driving the exact same light bulbs, all of these little circuits are going to test pretty much the same. And if you're having problems, you can just test around until you find one that's different. Now you could also just pop a new board in. But what fun is that? When I'm playing mine, I'm going, man, I fixed that. Check it out. It's still running the original boards. Sweet. But I kind of got it easier than a lot of hobbyists too, because I've got parts all over the place. So to you, if you don't have a parts board, it might be a lot easier to you to just buy a new one. Okay, so all of them kind of seem the same to me. So why did we have more lights out? Well, it could be that the pins themselves were corroded and it just wasn't making good contact with the wire. You can test that pretty much by wiggling the connector. When the connector's on and the game's on, just wiggle the connector. I don't know that I'd wiggle the power one coming in because then you're screwing with logic chips on the MPU board, but these outputs to the lamps, it's not going to hurt anything if you wiggle them. So this connector, and this connector. If you wiggle them and one of the lights that's off you see come on at all, well, that tells you that it's probably fine. You've got a problem with solder on the connector or with a connection on the connector here. And sometimes you get alkaline damage on these too, like we saw on the MPU. All right, so I got two SCRs I need to swap, and I need to swap that chip. All right, folks, so I got it swapped. Now, so I swapped the two N5060s, I believe is what those are. Let's see if I'm correct. Oh, I can't see. That's the Motorola number, I guess. 2N5060. That's what we were testing, folks. And then these chips, I don't know what I said it was earlier, but it is, in fact, a 7414514. I don't think that's what I said it was. It's a 14514. Now, you might say, where can I get some of those if I need those? We're going to play a little test. We're going to do a test here. So, we have been telling people that if you need parts for arcade games and stuff. Now, by the way, I haven't even talked to this gentleman about this. He's not paying me or anything like that. I would never lie to make you buy, folks. There is a website that we've used for years. One of our buddies from the Killer List of Video Games. Buddy, I don't really know him, but Buddy as in I've talked to him over the years and we've bought parts from him and stuff. Has a website called Twisty Wrist Arcade. So Twisty Wrist Arcade. I have no clue why he called it that, but that's what he called it. It used to be pacman.com or some crap like that, which was cool too. I think it was pacman.com. But scratch that. Just forget it. I'm going to edit that out. So it's definitely twistywristarcade.com. So go to twistywristarcade.com. So we're going to do that and see if he's got two N5060s and if he's got a 7414154. Is that what that is? 7414514. 7414514. Okay, so he doesn't really specialize in pinball, I don't think. He mainly does arcade games, but we'll go check it out. Let's go look on the computer. All right, here we are on the gentleman's site, Twisty Wrist Arcade, and looky what I have here. It's not a 74, it's a 4514. The MC, the 1 is just how they did their numbering. So it's a 4514 chip. It's a 4 to 16 line decoder. Well, we already know that's what it is, right? And you can see that he says that it's on a Baby Pac-Man driver board. Baby Pac-Man is a Bally pinball machine that's also an arcade game. He's more into arcade games, but he also has pinball stuff. Okay, and then at the same time, I searched for 2N5060. He doesn't have those, but he's got 2N5061s, which are the same thing. It's just a higher amperage. Or it's capable of a higher amperage. So it's a little beefier part. So he's got 5 of them for $1.90, and then the other one was how much? The other one was $1.25. Okay, so we used 2 of the other ones. It's 5 of them for $1.90. That's what 40 cents a piece, a little less than 40 cents a piece. That's 80 cents and $1.25. $2 we've spent on this board so far, but I've spent like 10 hours filming this video about it. But it's a trade-off. I could have just bought the $90 one. Okay, so we're going to pop it back in the cabinet and see. So my whole point is twistywristarcade.com. Go check them out. Again, he's not paying me anything. I'm just telling you. I'm giving you the goods, people. I'm telling you where to find the good stuff. The good beep. He's got all the stuff. He's got all kind. You saw what I did, right? I mean, come on, people. Come on now. I typed in 2 numbers in the. He had both the. Come on, people. Where the hell else you going to find a chip from 19? Come on, people. What's the date code? Look, it was 910 AD when this thing was made. This thing's damn near 1,100 years old. Come on, people. Come on now. This is the place to get you. If you. Here we go again. People never listen. Come on, man. Now, if you want the stuff, all you got to do is go to Twisty. All right, folks. Look at that. Look how beautiful. Now, I'm having a problem going into test, but I did go into test, and all of them are lighting up, including that one. It lights up in test, people. Some of them are kind of strange, like these. But I think it's just how the attract works. And these over here, they do a little weird thing. There is one light here that's not working quite right. But it's something with the socket, and it's a general illumination one, so it's not the light board. And I was able to get the one in the far right over there. So now all of those are working, doing their thing. The ones on the back box no longer flicker. I guess that one is supposed to be on because it's on now. So, took quite a while, but we got it. Now, the little auxiliary lamp board. We have covered in other videos. This is actually a little bit different version than in some of the games, but it works under the same principle. All of these transistors control these lights in the back, with the exception of the one all the way on the right. Control all of those lights. And then it also controls most of this stuff on the shooter ramp. So these rollovers here, and then this ready, set, go, or whatever, ready, aim, fire. Ready, aim, fire. Are controlled by that, and they're all working. So what would I do to service that? Well, it's a working board, so I'd probably take it out and just resolder the headers like we did on the lamp driver board. All right, so there you go. Lots of lights. They're looking good. And by the way, boy, it'd be really cool if somebody hadn't swapped those out. That would be, that's just, it's a real shame they swapped those out, and I have to swap the original ones back in, but I don't mind doing it. So we're going to put the original ones back in, but that'll be on another video. This one's really long in the tooth. We got all kinds of other stuff still to work on this baby. So leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think so far. I can't believe it's got this many lights. I mean, it has well over 100 lights in this game. I don't know about controlled ones, but it could be that there's 100 controlled lights. It's pretty close. Probably 85 of them or something like that. Insane. So leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. And hey, by the way, don't forget to check out my brother Donnie. Now, you know how you can support our channel? There's two ways. One is you can watch my brother's channel. My brother Donnie has a channel. There's a link down below. I'm over there with him a lot. We're working on old vehicles and old buildings and stuff like that. But you can also help us out. There is a link down below each video, and also on our website, lionsarcade.com. There's a parts page. If you follow any of those links, they take you to Amazon. So if you're one of the type of people, like most of us are, that buy things on Amazon from time to time, if you click our link before you buy whatever you're going to buy on Amazon, it sends us a tip. It gives us a percentage of your purchase because we sent you to Amazon. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. And we will keep working on this game. Hope you enjoyed it so far. It's such a beautiful machine. It's really starting to come back alive. Now remember when we started, it wasn't doing anything. And now it's got every single light bulb, except for that one, working perfectly like it's supposed to. So it's coming back alive. So we'll see you on the next video where we'll dig into it some more.